Hey y'all, it's y'all favorite cozy girl, Chi the Reality Queen, and I am back again with another episode of Robe Chronicles. Tonight, we'll be talking about Married at First Sight, Season 16, Episode 15. Okay, so this episode starts off getting right to it. Um, Devon Franklin, who is not an expert, but they wanted to make him an expert last season. There was a lot of backlash online about people not thinking that he was good, but they apparently still keep bringing him in. I don't think he's nearly as good as Dr. Pia, but I guess he was okay. So he comes to talk to Jasmine, and he's asking her, has she expressed how she feels to Eris? And she feels that they're compatible and that they would work in the long term. But, she just thinks that they would actually have a really good marriage if he gave it the chance. And, but she doesn't know what he wants. And Devon is basically like, it doesn't matter, right? Which is true. If you feel a way and that's how you feel, say it. So then the person can then choose to respond and kind of let you know where things are and what's going on. Like, I feel like Jasmine, and she said this multiple times, she's just really afraid of what he's gonna say. And she talks about how like she hasn't really opened up to him, or like she hasn't because she doesn't think her life is as hard as his. And so like when they talk about things, he'll go on for like 30 minutes to an hour talking about things. And it's crazy to me because I feel like somebody being bullied for 3 years straight in school by her peers and not being able to talk about it because her family is really like happy and they don't have any issues, like familial issues, is a bad thing. Like that is a bad thing that happened to you and you need to talk about it. Like she looks at it like, oh, I overcame, I'm on the other side of that. But she's not really on the other side of it. And Devon pointed that out because she's handling her relationship with Eris the same way she handled those bullies. You were bullied, you didn't say anything, you dealt with it, you were sad, you were depressed, and you kept it all inside. You're now here with Eris and you feel like you can't speak up, you can't say anything, you can't talk to him, you can't bring it up, and you're keeping it all inside. So she doesn't think that those things were bad because he had a family, his dad die, his friend die, and all this stuff. And it's like, death is tragic, and death absolutely affects how people behave. However, just because no one died doesn't mean that you haven't lived or seen trauma. Being bullied and not being able to deal with it or have an outlet or talk to somebody is traumatic. And I think that because of the way society looks at certain things, she feels that she hasn't gone through anything like Eris, and so she has nothing to talk about, despite that being a very huge thing, and she should be talking about it. So I like that he pointed that out to her to hopefully help her realize that she does have something to talk about. And she does have a story, right? Like he's not the only person that has problems. Like she has had problems and difficulties. And if she doesn't realize it, then she won't be able to address it with her husband. What Jasmine then also admits to Devon is something that we have always known, or his name is Devon, not Devon. I don't know, actually. I don't even think they said it this episode. Maybe they did. I think they wrote it. Was that she's afraid that he's going to say he's not interested in moving forward with the marriage. And the truth is, you need to know, right? Like, just because you don't ask doesn't mean that he's still not interested in moving forward with the marriage. So you might as well ask and get that out the way. And I will say again, and I will continue saying, since the episode that it happened, Dominique might have been the smartest person on this season. She knew that it wasn't working. And because she knew that, she did. All these other people, I feel, are trying to get paid from the show, maybe hopefully gain popularity or fame from the show, because they're working in situations that they know are not working. Next, we have Nicole and Chris talking, and Nicole, she's sometimes a little disappointing. She tells Chris that she wants him when she tells him to leave her alone and that she needs space, to not actually leave her alone because she feels like that's just her thing, right? Like she tells people that, but she doesn't really mean it. And Chris is like, well, I'm confused because I'm trying to do what you're telling me. And she goes, well, if I tell you to leave me alone and I need space, like for real, then yes, leave me alone. But if I'm just in another room, not really talking about it and being coy, then you should kind of force me. And Nicole is a fool for this. I'm sorry. Like, although I will say I do understand what she's saying, I don't agree with it. And when I say I do understand, like I have been that person, right? And I think we've all kind of been that person where we're like, oh, I don't really want to talk about it. And oh, it's no big deal. But it is a big deal. And you do want to talk about it, but maybe you don't want to burden other people. So I definitely get the mindset. But at the same time, those are things that you can't really do when you're trying to build the foundation of marriage and be with somebody and create something. Is like when you do those things that ultimately give mixed signals, I think that's where people run into problems. And like somebody like Chris, I think he's trying to please her. So he's trying to do whatever she says. So he can't fathom, like, you told me to leave you alone, but you want me to bother you? He doesn't know how to navigate that because that's not intuitive for him. Like, what you tell me is what I'm going to do. Like, I just want to keep everything cool. So I think that is where they're probably going to run into a little bit of problem, is that Nicole wants him to do a lot of things by reading her mind, maybe. And it's like, he can't read your mind, girl. But either way, I think she's wrong, but I do kind of get the concept of what she's saying despite disagreeing. Okay. Now we have Kirsten working out at the gym. And honestly, that was the fakest workout because as a Black woman, you are not going to the gym, maybe in a full face of makeup if you know you're about to record. Like obviously she's being recorded for this show. So she goes to the gym in a full face of makeup, but you're not going with pressed edges. Like her edges was slick and she was in the gym on like, oh no girl, you're not gonna sweat out that slick leave out. Like her hair looked too good to really be putting in work at the gym. But either way, she's at the gym when Shaq's mom calls, and I don't know why she called, because I feel like she called just to berate Kirsten and tell her that she's a bad wife and she doesn't support Shaq. And I'm like, did your son call you to complain that his wife isn't supporting him the way that he needs, instead of telling his wife that she's not supporting him in the way that he needs? So then you can do the dirty work of telling the wife how he feels instead of him doing it. I don't know. To me, it was very weird. I didn't like it. And it makes me like Shaq even less. I was already like, Shaq started here and has been trending downward as this season goes along. Like he is like here. And I know by decision day, he gonna be under. Like he is so sassy and annoying. And it's crazy because you didn't see this in the beginning, but he's somebody who literally cares about no one but himself. Oh, well, maybe his family, of course, but as he doesn't see Kirsten as family, despite them being married, he could care less about her wants and her needs, like irrelevant, right? And the fact that he had his mom do his dirty work per se is like, okay, I don't know. Maybe they wanted to incorporate, because they've been incorporating everybody's parents in, and you know, despite his parents actually being at the wedding, they haven't incorporated them in. And maybe this is how they were looking for a way to do it. But to me, it just looks like a little boy whose mom always has to handle all his problems. And this is not the first time she's done it. This is something that she does, right? This is a consistent thing that she does for him. And it's like, that's all I have to say about that. Then we moved to Gina and Clint, and it's so crazy because I was looking at them, and you know how they showed that little clip from the wedding before they go into a scene of the couple, and I realized that the last time Gina and Clint looked genuinely happy together was on their wedding day. Like that photo shoot was genuine. Like it didn't look like two people who didn't like each other, wanted nothing to do with each other. It looked like two people that actually were having a good time with each other. And I wish they could get back to that. And I feel like Gina is holding them back. Maybe Clint is a problem, right? Like I said, I always have to reference editing because you don't know. But I just feel like Gina is the one holding them back from being in that place where they could progress back to that happiness. Then Devon Franklin goes to meet with Eris. He asks him, what does he find attractive about Jasmine? And he talks about her work ethic, and he talks about her calming spirit, which I feel like he's been mentioning throughout this entire season. And so far, that has not made him sexually attracted to her or want to do anything sexually with her. So I don't know why people keep telling him to build off it, because clearly he cannot build off of it. I don't know if he doesn't want to, like they're insinuating, or it's just her looks are just too much to get past for him. I personally do not think Jasmine is a non-attractive girl. I think she's a very pretty girl, but I am a woman. And maybe I have a different set of eyes than Eris has. But I feel like you definitely can't build attraction if you aren't connecting with somebody physically. Like they don't hug, they don't hold hands, they don't even peck, they don't do anything to even kind of raise a little bit of sexual tension. So it's easy, like Devon was saying, to keep reverting back to that, oh, well, I'm not attracted to her, I'm not attracted to her. And just kind of living in that space and just, letting it go. And then he asks him about his job and the effort he puts in and why he puts so much effort into working and not effort into his marriage. And he said, well, and he basically says what I said earlier, is that he knows if he says no, he just goes back to the life he had. He doesn't lose anything. He gains all in the world, and it's perfectly fine. So he doesn't care. Like, he is not afraid of this marriage not working. And I think that's ultimately the problem that we have with a lot of these couples, is they're like, best case scenario, I find a spouse. Worst case scenario, I'm on TV, I get paid, I get ads, I get commercials, I get Instagram deals, whatever it is. And that's how they're looking at it. Like, best case scenario is I find a spouse and I get all those things, right? Worst case scenario is I just get all of those things, no spouse. Or even better, I get a spouse that DMs me on Instagram, because wasn't that what Zach was doing from season 13 or 14, whatever, the one that was with Michaela? All the girls DMing him, he was running the streets with them. So maybe that's what he's hoping for. Stick it through with her, look like a guy who cares, and then just pick one of these girls that hop in my DMs after the show is over. There is a benefit here. So then the couples together, they go whiskey tasting and line dancing. And this is where things get drama filled. Like, this episode was actually very intense from the beginning, like starting out with that Jasmine and Devon conversation. But this episode, I feel like, just had so much going on. I was like, okay, I feel like you guys kept us like on a little, like, you know how you're just on autopilot, and then all of a sudden this episode's like so much going on, and it's just like, where did this come from? Like, I feel like you guys, I don't even know if this is all happening in the same amount of time, but it seems so turbulent so quickly. But yeah, so they go to this whiskey tasting and they go line dancing, and they're talking, and Nicole, they have her playing that role that Gil played in his season, in which they ask questions and try to get people to open up. But the problem with Nicole doing it is Nicole just doesn't ask questions. She asks questions and then tries to impart what she believes is knowledge on these situations and what she thinks and what she believes. And it kind of muddies the waters a little bit. So she discusses how Jasmine got emotional and that it broke her heart and this and that. And, Kirsten said that it broke her heart too. So Jasmine just goes out and says what she had said, which, I mean, at this point, you might as well, because someone has already brought it up or inferred, like, she alluded to it and is like, okay, well, let me just, everybody know what I'm talking about. So let's just, whatever. And then I don't even know how they got onto the topic. Oh, I think they were talking about people having a space to feel comfortable saying how they feel and not holding stuff in. And Clint goes to talk about a friend of his that committed suicide. And he was like, I was devastated because it's like, I am upset that I didn't give this person a space for them to feel comfortable to come to me. And Chris mentions that he had a similar situation, and we all know Eris did. So I think maybe that's why he didn't bring it up, or maybe he did and they cut it out. And then Shaq discusses how he was that person. He was the person that felt like he was living life and had no space to tell people about the bad and what was wrong in his life. And he was just holding it in. And he just didn't really have a safe space. And, here comes Nicole talking about, oh, well, this is a safe space. And if you ever, thank you for sharing and this and that and all this stuff. And, your wife is a good person and she would have your back. I know I'm speaking for her, but, and they look over at Kirsten and Kirsten's like this. Yeah. And, in this specific instance, I blame Kirsten, but I also kind of understand, because that's a lot of pressure, right? Like, you're his wife and I'm sure you like him, right? And you're dealing with him, but this relationship is still very new, right? Less than 2 months. And one, I think Kirsten is an emotionless person. Like, I think she doesn't know how to express her emotions in a way that other people will like, right? She doesn't know how to express it. In her mind, she thinks she's being very passionate or vocal or supportive or whatever. And she doesn't really know how to express it in a way other people like. But to me, her response was so cringe, but at the same time, I feel like that would be my response, or like someone who doesn't really know how to navigate those awkward situations, because your husband just told everybody that he wanted to kill himself, and you're like, okay, like, what do you say? Because I'm not really that close with you, but also we're married and I should show that support. So when Nicole said it, it's like, okay, that's probably what you should have said. Like, oh, I'm here for you, whatever. But because she's not an emotion-filled person and she doesn't really show emotion very well, it got even more awkward. And then Shaq just gets up and leaves the table like Mr. Sassy Pants is back again. Like, he is so sassy. Why are you getting up and leaving the table like that? That bit of information, that's something you should have dropped to her personally, right? And it's even worse if she hasn't heard that before, because now she has to give a reaction in front of everybody that you deem appropriate for the magnitude of the information that you've given, right? It's very, very awkward for her. So she follows behind him and she's talking to him and he's like, oh, I don't like that Nicole had to be the person to come in and say what you should have said, which, okay, I'll give him that. But also, you have to know your wife, right? And if you know that your wife is not that person that comes through with the big, strong emotions and is very wordy and you can't expect that from her just because now y'all in a public setting. Like, she's not going to change who she is. And so I feel that reaction from Shaq was just very childlike. And I like I said, I do feel sorry for him in the situation that he went through, because it's sad to not have a safe space to discuss your problems and you know, things that happen. But it's like, you're now this problem that happened years ago, not saying that it can't happen again or something, but it's like, now this is your wife's fault, who just met you 6 weeks ago. Like, some people are like Nicole, they're very wordy, they can say stuff. Like, from the looks of it, no one else said anything encouraging, right? And that's what Kirsten said. Kirsten's like, I couldn't even get a word out, because before I could even say anything, Nicole had already started talking and saying that we're there for you and this and that. And so I think that in that moment, I realized that Shaq kind of acts a little bit like a petulant child that's like, why aren't you doing exactly what I say or what I need or what I want? And it's like, that's not like, Kirsten is very emotionless. Like, she's not that person that's going to be like, oh my God, baby, I'm so sorry. I want this. Like, you can, even in her voice, there's like no real, like, there's inflection and there's tonal changes, but it's not like, I don't know. I just don't think the way that the two of them show emotion is not compatible, maybe. Like, they probably just need different people. Like, although the things that she says she does sound good, it's not enough for Shaq. So then they go back to the table, I think they go back to the table and they talk about how they finally consummated their marriage, Shaq and Kirsten, and, you know, they had sex, obviously, and everybody's like, oh my God, and people are mad that Kirsten didn't tell them. And I mean, it was so obvious. After that little paint incident, it was very obvious that those two people had sex. But modesty, you know, Kirsten probably didn't want anybody to know, Shaq probably didn't want anybody to know. But I'm glad they did, but I just wish they had better communication with each other. So then they start to learn the line dance, and everybody's having a fantastic time, right? Everybody, the couples are dancing, everybody's having a good time. And then the instructor pulls Eris to dance, and she's like, you know, dance with Eris, and Eris is dancing with her. And Jasmine loses it, which rightfully so, right? Because why is my man dancing with this lady here? Now, if you look at the situation, before I get into it, because I think he's wrong, but when you look at the situation, all the other couples were dancing together and Eris and Jasmine were just kind of standing off to the side. And I think that has to do with the fact that they have a problem touching, because everybody else was dancing and line dancing, but they were very close and hugging up on each other. Even Clint and Gina, who I was surprised. I was like, oh, there's no way. But they were still, you know, hugging up and close and, you know, getting close with each other. But since Eris and Jasmine have that block, they were just, it looked like they were just kind of standing there. And the instructor, who might have found Eris to be attractive, maybe, or maybe she just said, oh, he's not dancing, let me grab him. If she was smart, she would have grabbed Jasmine. But because she's dumb, clearly, she grabbed Eris. And so she left, she was cursing, she was mad, and then we see Eris sleeping on the couch. Now, this didn't make no sense to me, because y'all got a second room. If I'm correct, all the apartments have second rooms with fully furnished beds and everything. So why didn't he just go sleep in the other room on the bed? Why is he sleeping on the couch? That makes me think that he must sleep on the couch a lot, and they just decided to focus on it on this episode to make it look like a little whatever. Then Dr. Pepper comes the next day to talk to Jasmine and Eris because of what happened the night before. And she just asked them straight up, like, do you see anything happening with this marriage? Do you see you guys like making it through or working it out? And if there's a possibility for this marriage to continue. And Eris says yes. Then the camera pans over to Jasmine and she's like cheesing. And I'm like, girl, you are a glutton for punishment. This man has continuously told you he's not attracted to you. He has friend zoned you. And just because he said there's a possibility for the marriage, you over there cheesing, girl, he wants his check. I don't know how much they pay per episode, but he wants it. And maybe you want it too, but you also boo-boo the fool. And you look like boo-boo the fool now, because I'd have been like, it's over. But maybe, I guess, with only 2 weeks left, you try to push through. Who knows? But I did think that it was very, very weird that she was happy because he said there's a possibility for the marriage. And it's like, girl, you have just spent 6 weeks with this man who told you you're unattractive and he don't want you. But just because now, after a big mess up, he comes and says, yeah, I think there's a possibility, you want to be on the side like, cheesing. Girl, get a grip. That bullying in middle school, it's coming back. Did a number on you and your insecurity. Because, and that's okay, because you are who you are. But, no. You should have left. You should have been like, you know what? I don't think this is going to work. I'm crying all the time. I'm stressed. I'm just going to leave with my dignity intact. And I think that's how she should have left that situation. Nicole and Kirsten go lingerie shopping. Nicole's talking about how she doesn't love what she sees in the mirror, but she wants to be more sexy instead of being like boyish and not sexy, more goofy in the bedroom. And so she asks Kirsten to kind of like help her out. And so Kirsten tries to help her, you know, with the little lingerie and showing how to walk sexy when they get into the bedroom and all that. And so it was like a cute little interaction. I'm glad that the people are now becoming friends, because I feel like earlier on, none of the, like, of the girl side and of the guy side, they didn't actually seem like they were really cool, or maybe they just weren't showing it. But it just seemed like everybody was getting together because they had to. But now it's starting to show that some of these couples are actually friends, and I like that. Clint and Gina meet with Dr. Pepper, and she's trying to get them to open up emotionally with each other, and tells them to watch some emotional movies, not just love movies, but actual emotional movies, so they can actually feel something, right? She also tells them to hold hands while they're meeting, and she also tells them to talk about what they like about the other person and say something that they appreciate about them. And they both, I think, opened up a little bit. Gina says she wants to be told that people are proud of her. And I think everybody needs validation. I do. I really do. I don't know why that just rubbed me the wrong way. I can't really pinpoint why or put my finger on why that rubbed me the wrong way about her wanting him to say that she's doing a good job. But it did. And I wish I could explain it better, but I can't. But either way, it just felt a little off to me. I didn't like it. But I do think that everybody likes validation. But that type of validation, it just, because it's about her career and her job, not like, oh, I love how you look today, you smell nice. Or it wasn't something like that that would build a marriage, but something more like, oh, you're doing such a good job at work. It's just weird. It was weird to me. Shaq and Kirsten meet with Devon Franklin, and Shaq is telling him, oh, I want support. And I am so glad that somebody finally shut Shaq down. Like, no, you cannot keep wanting. Have you asked Kirsten what she wants or what she needs from you? Because thank you. He has never asked. He does not ask because he doesn't care. Shaq only cares about himself. I'm tired of hearing about his work trip that she didn't go on. Like, it's over. It already happened. Next time, if I want you to come, I'm going to say it. And that's what they were saying. Like, you have to be assertive, and you also have to let people know what it is that you want from them. And here's the thing. He thinks that she's not being supported enough. She thinks she's being very supportive. So they obviously have two different definitions of what it means to be supportive. But I'm just so glad that Devon Franklin called him out. Like, all you do is complain about the type of support she gives instead of acknowledging that she does give some support and appreciating it. I'm like, there you go. Somebody tell Mr. Sassy Pants that he needs to appreciate who she is and help her become who you want her to be, right? Like, hey, thank you for doing this and calling me and checking in and whatever. You know, next time I would really like you to be there instead of you weren't there, so that's not enough. That's not enough. Like, it's just so, like, Shaq is so, to me. Like, anytime he starts talking, I'm like, And that's like, he has really become that person that when he starts talking, I'm just like rolling my eyes. Like, I don't even care. I don't want to hear it, because it's like, I just feel like he has not. Yes, I understand. Maybe she upset you. She didn't find you attractive. That made you upset. She didn't like bald heads, whatever. But now that she's trying, can you give her some grace, please? Just a little bit. I just feel like he doesn't give Kirsten any grace at all. Like, none, zero. Like, he went from giving her a lot of patience and grace because she didn't want to kiss him to like none on her being supportive and how she shows support, which is just kind of frustrating to me. Pastor Cal met with Nicole and Chris, and oh my God, I don't know if they want them to have a problem, because it looked like they were going to have no problems, no qualms, and just be a perfect couple to the end, and they're telling them to make up problems. But Nicole saying that there's a little part of her that feels like, oh, well, Chris didn't pick me. Like, yes, everything's working out. Yes, this, but Chris didn't pick me. Girl, you are on Married at First Sight, a choice that you made. She's starting to piss me off. Like, girl, I'm on your side. Don't make me regret it. Okay? I support you. I am here on your side. I understand your insecurities. I want you to work through them. I'm happy that you have someone like Chris to help you through them. But why are you trying to be so nitpicky about every single thing? Come on. And I'm glad Pastor Cal said it. He was like, girl, you made a list, he made a list, and we try to give you as close to the person that you could. And he was very extensive. So he pretty much did pick you. He asked for someone like you, and we gave him who it was, and he's telling you he likes you and he wants to be with you, and you still trying to find a problem. It's like, girl, come on. It's so annoying to watch. And like I said, I think at this point, she is trying to create a problem. And like Pastor Cal said, it's like self-sabotage. Like, girl, get it together. What is your issue? But from this conversation, Pastor Cal asked, like, Chris, do you love her? Like, are you guys there yet? And he said it for the first time. Chris told Nicole that he loved her. Nicole said that she loved him, and it was very cute. And I'm excited for them. I mean, like I said, I hope Chris is this person and there's not like another person that's lingering in the back. I'm afraid of that for him. Afraid of that for her about him. But I hope not. I hope what we see is what we get here, right? And we're not going to be blindsided later on. Either way, this was a good episode. I'm not gonna lie. This season has been very boring, but this was a good episode. Not because the couples are getting any further, I think, but maybe because there was a little bit more drama, a little bit more intensity. And so I was like, oh, we all over the place today. So I kind of enjoyed that. But yeah, let's see what happens next week. They are, 2 weeks away from decision day. We're almost there. I really think I know the direction. We're going to have 1 yes, 3 no's. But that's what I think. This is just a prediction. 1 yes, 3 no's. But we will see. Please like, comment, subscribe, share. Tell me what you guys think. If you agree with me, disagree, how do you feel about Shaq? I'm going to call him Sassy Pants. Just let me know. And I will see you guys next time. Bye.